Indira Gandhi remains a polarizing figure. For some, she is still seen through the prism of Durga and Bangladesh. To others, she is seen through the prism of emergency and dictator, and the person who lifted the emergency in 1977 on her own volition in a way. How do you see her? Durga, dictator, Democrat?
You want to say, Rajdeep, her democratic credential, which we all of are trying to justify. The question is imposing emergencies and becoming a Durga. The Durga doesn't entitle her to impose an emergency and take away rights of the people. What had happened in India at that time, you use the name of the Durga that you won some war and you divided Pakistan. That's okay. It was a great victory for us. We must appreciate Indira Gandhi in that way. But that doesn't give her the right because she was unseated by a judicial order. And what Sanjay Baru is saying, where I agree with you, what is happening today, that a lot of people are being put behind the bar. But there was no judicial access available during the emergency. All the arrests were made which were not available. Misa was made that nobody can be released. Now Sudha Bardwaj can be released through the judicial process. So there is no ban on the judiciary not to release the people. The question is what is happening today may not be acceptable to most of us. Yeah, the way it is being done. But there is a judicial intervention here at this point in time.
But as a senior journalist, how do you, as a senior journalist, Prabhu, how do you compare what happened where journalists, the likes of Kuldeep Nayyar were, for example, put behind bars, the electricity supply was switched off in an Indian Express, censorship was put in place, with what's happening today? Many believe today the official media, whether it's Doordarshan or All India Radio, have also become a handmaiden of the government of the day. There's constant promotion. So do you see the media today freer?
Rajdeep, the way you have put the example of Doordarshan and media, you have not put any other private organization which has been put in like Indian
I am saving them their blushes. I am saving those. I am saving those private organizations their blushes.
Let me Rajdeep, you allow me to. Rajdeep, you allow me to complete because you allowed Sanjay Baru without interruption. Interruption without allowing me to do. Because what is happening today, I don't think anybody is forcing anybody to write this thing or not write this thing. If the editors and the owner decide to do what they think is being imposed, that is their fault. If somebody, I am not being told not to write anything, I write what I want to write. The question is, fear is among created by ourselves. There may be some vindictive action, I know that. But the question is, if you are afraid of people, you are afraid of writing, okay, you want to curry favor with somebody, there is some kind of a transactional relationship between the media and the government. If you want to maintain transaction relationship, then you are sacrificing your own freedom. Emergency, there was no such kind of thing. There were only people were arrested. Whatever was done, it was done openly. Press was closed and arrested journalists were arrested. Now, journalists are not being arrested. They are arrested being on different things. They are putting social media, both sides is happening. In Karnataka, Congress government arrests some journalists. In BJP government somewhere else. But there is no such kind of imposition the way it was happening during the emergency. Now, journalists are themselves, as they say, as Advani said, they were asked to bend and they started crawling on that. It is happening now. Nobody been asking to do anything.
So why do you think? We are doing so why do you think
we have to blame ourselves if we are not performing our duty?
So why do you think Prabhu Indira did what she did, clamped down on emergency, and why do you think then she eventually lifted the emergency in 77?
Because she knew that there would have been a revolution in the streets if she had not lifted. Because the kind of, you see, Nasbandi happened during that day, during that period. That was the maximum primary reason for being thrown out. And there was an inbuilt mechanism. The Congress party at that point in time, there were very famous leaders like Chandrasekhar and everybody else. There was a stronger Congress leadership at the second level. They were protesting. She would have been thrown out of the party if she had not lifted the democracy. Jagjeev Jam left after that. Baguna left after that. There were many congressmen who left. Congress party split during Mrs. Gandhi's time, twice. The Congress party was splitting. They were not standing with her. If she had not won the 71 war, she would have been thrown out of the party. The question is, she misused the power. As Pranab Mukherjee told me, in the Indian constitution, it's a democratic constitution, but it gives the dictatorial powers to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister can do anything under the sun using the same constitution. And she used the same constitution to impose emergency, deprive all of us all liberties. So this is a constitutional provision which she misused to the best of knowledge. That's the problem. Our constitution is much more democratic, but it provides unfettered power to the Prime Minister.
There you make a good point, abuse and misuse of power. In a way, Indira Gandhi, in a way, represented at that moment what happens when so much power is concentrated around one person, and dare one say an extra constitutional authority like Sanjay Gandhi. But Sanjay Baru, therefore, do we see Indira Gandhi through the prism of being seen as a dictatorial leader or a democrat? Some believe she set this political playbook that many other chief ministers and dare one say prime ministers have followed that once we are in power, we will misuse, abuse power, including agency power, to intimidate rivals and opponents. And therefore, she set the political template for the future.
Of course, that I agree. I mean, she set the political template for growing authoritarianism, democratic authoritarianism, the misuse of parliamentary majorities, legislative majority by successive, chief ministers across the country and some prime ministers later on. I think the fundamental difference, Rajdeep, as I keep thinking about the emergency, is that during the emergency, there was no elite support for the emergency. There was no widespread elite support for the emergency. Today, you find widespread elite support for the kind of authoritarianism that several chief ministers and people in Delhi are using through the institutions of what you call Godi media or controlled media, the corporatization of media, the dominance of corporate interests. I mean, forget about Delhi and forget about the national media. Look at what is happening across the country in Indian language media. Almost nowhere do you have powerful editors, even in the national media.
No, so should we blame Indira Gandhi for that, or should we blame the fact, as Prabhu says, editors and owners possibly for that? Why blame Indira Gandhi? If editors have lost their spine, why should Indira Gandhi be blamed for it?
No. All I'm saying is that the model of control or authoritarianism has changed.
Right.
That's the point I'm making. That, it was done starkly, nakedly, bureaucratically, inefficiently in many ways in 1975. I think the ruling elite have understood how to do it in a more sophisticated way.
Okay, for one final minute, therefore, Prabhu Chawla, undeclared emergency today, declared emergency in 75 is what Dr. Baru is somewhere hinting at without saying it in so many words. But you want to quickly respond, your final word.
He's entitled Rajdeep is entitled to his own opinion. I won't say undeclared emergency. I will say the psychophancy is unleashed by everybody. It is psychophancy of the world happening here. If editors and the media and industrialists start speaking the same language, every politician would like to dictate the term. It is for us, media people, it is for us, intellectuals, to accept or reject it. If you are accepting it, why blame the leader? Yeah. I don't understand. Ultimately, we have to blame ourselves that we can't stand up to the establishment and ask questions, whether it's the Congress government, whether it's the BJP government. Can anybody ask a question in Andhra Pradesh or in Tamil Nadu or in West Bengal? No.
Right.
Why are you blaming one central leadership? Okay. Every state government leadership is dictatorial in mind. They want to dictate the terms, and unfortunately, we are accepting it without limitations. That's our fault.
I think very well put. Remember, famously, L.K. Advani said at the time, when journalists were asked to bend, they ended up crawling.
Yeah, I said that.
And you could then perhaps argue that maybe there are journalists today who don't just crawl but do the Sakshtang Namaskar. But why blame the leaders for that? Maybe we need to look inwards. But clearly at the end of the day, what Indira Gandhi did in 1975, in my view, was unconstitutional, unacceptable and unjust. And it set a very dangerous template which hopefully we will find citizenry and indeed media persons and anyone interested in democracy being willing to push back against. Prabhu Chawla, Sanjay Baru, for joining me on the show tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.